What's up, guys, and welcome to Module 2 of the WICO Compass. I'm really excited about this module because it is an important module whereby we are going to dispel some myths and some misconceptions about what medical schools are really looking for in their applicants. So, with that being said, we're going to talk about in this process of understanding what medicals want, we'll understand why grades and test scores aren't everything. We're going to learn about avoiding the box checking pitfall, and we'll talk about more about what that is here in a little bit. And we're also going to address what it means to become an authentic applicant. And so let's dive right in. So, medical schools want people who can become successful physicians. When I say successful, I don't necessarily mean financially successful. I mean successful in a variety of ways, although maybe there is a slight financial component to that, right? Because medical schools want students who are likely to improve their reputation, to improve the school's reputation, and of course to give them money. But medical schools want physicians who are going to go into their communities and make an impact and reflect positively on their medical school in the process. In addition to that, they want students who have both academic excellence and real humanity. The reason I say this is because medicine is a unique career in that it kind of bridges the existential with the academic. It bridges the intellectual with the humanistic. You're constantly using science, but you're also using these other very important interpersonal qualities to be a good physician. And medical schools want people that they foresee can do that well. Now, medical schools kind of already know that if they over prioritize the importance and the significance of grades and test scores, it can lead to deficits elsewhere. What do I mean by that? Well, it's not uncommon that a ultra high scoring 528 scoring 4.0 GPA robust research applicant gets rejected to medical school. And obviously it's not because of an academic deficiency, it's not because they're not qualified, but it's because, at least in some cases, they lack the traits that medical schools are looking for. And medical schools, I think, have kind of found over time, over the years, that looking only for the 528 MCAT, 4.0 GPA scores kind of leads to attracting a certain type of person that may lack, not always, but may lack other very important qualities that are needed to be a good physician. And you can use this to your advantage, and we'll talk about that more in a moment. Now, most medical schools, when they look at applications, they use something that they call holistic application review. And what this means is that they're looking at all parts of your application. Now, your application, once you actually submit an application, you'll see just how robust they really are, right? It contains everything. It contains your grades, your MCAT score. It contains your letters of recommendation, your personal statement, all of the activities that you've ever participated in, as well as a short essay that you have to write about all of them. Medical schools are going to look at every bit of that. Medical schools will look at all of that and use all of that information during a holistic application review to assess who they think you are as a person and as a student. And what this means is holistic application review allows you to be yourself and become a competitive applicant in doing so. It allows you to focus on things that you care about rather than just having the best grades and the best scores. I will say this though, since we're on the topic, better scores and better grades are better scores and better grades, if that makes sense. It never hurts to have better scores and better grades. It can only help. It's only when those better scores and better grades come at the expense of other very important aspects of an application that they become problematic. My point here is not to downplay the importance of academic excellence. My goal here is to upplay the importance of other things as well. So, medical schools are very clear, usually, about their ideal applicant. They will tell you on their websites, under their admissions requirements section, what it is that they're looking for in their applicants. In addition to that, the AAMC, the American Association of Medical Colleges, those are the guys who own the MCAT, they own the medical school application. They're kind of the big organization that does everything related to going into medical school. They have a document that actually outlines what a successful applicant is likely to look like. That document is called The Anatomy of an Applicant, and you can look it up online. It's on Google, it's available, and it is free. It's quite long, but it covers a lot of stuff that you can kind of begin to digest over time to see what is it that medical schools are really looking for. Now, the key takeaway here is I feel that the most simple way to become a competitive applicant is to simply align your priorities with those of medical schools. What I do not mean is that you should align your activities and the things that you do with the things that you think medical schools want you to be doing. It's to simply align your priorities, the qualities and the traits that you adopt over the years as a pre-medical student. You want those to align with what medical students are looking for. How are you going to find that? You're going to read that, The Anatomy of an Applicant, and you are going to look on medical schools' websites to see what they want. This is a great strategy. It's going to help clue you in to what medical schools are looking for. Now, let's go back a little bit and kind of talk about why grades aren't the primary objective. And really the caveat being, what is the primary objective, right? So I said it before, many 5.0, 520, or even better, 528 applicants do not get accepted into medical school. And medical schools recognize that the academic skills that are needed to succeed in medical school are sometimes found at lower grades and scores. What does that mean? Well, it means that medical schools know that a person with a 4.0 versus a person with a 3.8 is not a dramatic change in that person's likelihood of succeeding in medical school. They may also believe that a 3.8 versus a 3.6 does not indicate a dramatic difference in a person's likelihood to succeed in medical school. Medical schools are constantly running statistics. They're looking at, what were the grades and scores of the people who came? How did those people perform when they were here? And they start to develop trends. And they have made internal decisions about what they think is the minimum acceptable academic performance that they can tolerate. So they already know this. You do not need perfect grades to be successful in medical school, and medical schools know that. I mentioned it earlier. For many people, ultra high grades and scores come at the expense, the detriment of other parts of the application. Grades and scores are important, but don't make a mistake in thinking that the application only consists of these things. It is so much more. Now, there's a misconception, I think, that permeates most of the pre-medical community at my undergraduate institution and other undergraduate institutions that I'm aware of through friends, colleagues, etc. And this is the idea that in order to get into medical school, you need to have performed a certain set of activities. There were certain things that you needed to do, so-called boxes that you needed to check in order to get into medical school. You already know what these are. It's research, it's shadowing, it's volunteering, it's maybe being a TA, it's whatever. And I think what tends to happen is as students look at the profiles of students who are getting accepted to medical school, they start to fall into this trap of box checking. They say, oh, well, this student performed research, and that student performed volunteering, and that student did shadowing. So if I just do research and volunteering and shadowing, then I'll be good, and my application will become competitive, and I'll get accepted into medical school. And that is simply not how it works. What is box checking specifically? It's participating in activities that you think medical schools are going to like, and specifically doing it because you think medical schools will like it. It also tends to include avoiding activities that you may find meaningful because they feel like a waste of time. And it's also performing activities that you don't even like in hopes that medical schools will be impressed. That's what it means to be a box checker. You're only participating in the things that you think are important. You're giving up on things that are actually important in order to do the things that you think are important, and doing things that you may not even really like in order to look more impressive. What's my point in bringing this up? My point in bringing this up is this right here. The profile of a successful applicant is a list of qualities, not a list of activities. What does this mean? The activities that you perform help you adopt these qualities. They help you become a certain type of person. It is not about the activities, it is about the qualities that the activities may help you achieve. Now, what does this mean? In my opinion, it means that you are liberated from having to do only those things that you think medical schools want. And it liberates you to do those things that you are passionate about, because those things are likely to lead to better personal development than whatever things you think medical schools want. What this means is, if you have an opportunity to do extra research, but instead you want to focus on, I'll give you a perfect example. For me, when I was in college, I wanted to teach piano lessons at my church. and I had an opportunity to do extra research, but I decided I wanted to play the piano at my church and teach piano lessons at my church and focus on that more so than the extra research. I already had a little bit of research under my belt, not much, and it wasn't great. But I thought to myself, teaching piano and playing piano is so much more important to me as an individual than doing research. And I had this feeling that one day when I applied to medical school, I was going to have a lot more to say about my interests in playing the piano and teaching piano than I was going to have to say about research, especially the research that I'd already done. And this was an example of a time where I felt like I made the right decision. I chose to continue playing piano and teaching piano lessons versus participating in new research and giving up the piano opportunity. The piano opportunity was important to me. And as it turns out, it wasn't the research that we talked about in my medical school interview, it was the piano. I'll let you take from that what you will. Now, I want to discuss a little bit about this idea of becoming an authentic applicant. I think authenticity is the key to a successful medical school application. And I think what authenticity means is it's you being a real person with real passions, real interests, and real hobbies, and not becoming a cookie cutter person. This is the pitfall of box checking. It's the opposite of that. It's the inverse of that. When you avoid the pitfall of box checking, you enable yourself to become an authentic applicant. In the process of participating in your passions, your interests, and your hobbies, you learn how to become a better person through those aspects of yourself that are tested and tried and developed through your interests, passions, and hobbies. This allows you to double down on the things that make you who you are, forgive the typo, and find ways to develop those parts of your story. The things that make you who you are often not things that are academic. In fact, I think rarely are those things that make you who you are. The things that make you who you are a series of experiences and a series of interests and hobbies and passions. And it is through those things that you become an authentic person that medical schools are more likely to look at and say, we want him in our class. We want that diversity in our class. We want those experiences in our class. We want that perspective in our class. And you gain that through being your own person, through being an authentic person who is true to yourself and the things that you care about and the things that you enjoy. That's the high yield that I wanted to talk to you about what medical schools really want. I want you to focus on getting your focus not off of academics, but also onto other things, right? Maintaining good grades, maintaining good performance, but also recognizing that there is just more to the pre-medical process than having good grades. I want you to focus on being a whole person while you're in college and focusing on the things that you care about. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next module.